This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Previously on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Rebels may have concluded this past March, but we aren't ready to stop talking about it quite just yet. And it is now our privilege to welcome the voice of Hera, Vanessa Marshall, to Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
I was completely blown away by your French Twi'lek accent.
Well, it's interesting. When I first got the role, they said to me, come to your first session with all your lines prepared in a French accent, just in case. And prior to recording, Filoni asked me, do you think she ever would speak in such an accent? And I said, only if she were angry. You know, I have friends from Texas and, you know, they go to school back east, they sort of lose their accent, but then when they get home and maybe their cousins start nagging them, they go right back into that family accent and get in there and sort of duke it out with each other.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it seemed like she just went right back home and became a child again to a certain extent. Not child in terms of maturity or you know, anything like that, but in the sense that she just went right back to her innermost true self and started communicating in that way as she had when she was a child.
Yeah, all those years at the Corellian boarding school were just lost in that moment. So.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's awesome.
Who in the crew of Rebels just generally caused the most hijinks over the years?
Oh, Steve. For sure.
Okay.
Are you kidding? That guy can make sounds with his mouth that should be illegal. He is nuts. He I don't even understand how he makes some of the noises that he makes, but they're hilarious. Like, we'll do something really, really touching and very profound, and then we'll hear or something really to undercut the drama.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. See, I can't do it like he does. He does it like it's a hole in time and space.
Oh, Lordy.
It is so funny, though.
I wish I could see you.
Hera quickly became a fan favorite. And why do you think that she quickly became such a huge fan favorite?
You know, that's a great question.
And I love the fact that Hera is a Twi'lek, because I've always liked Twi'leks. I don't know, I think it's because of their liku.
Long head tails.
Yeah, well, Gianni, there you go. Hello, Scoundrels. Welcome to another episode of the show. Here's what we have in store for this episode. There's an announcement about the next Star Wars animated series and the potential for more solo movies. We'll cover that in this week's news. Need some pointers on Star Wars fashion and lifestyle products? If so, stick around for another edition of That's So Wizard. In our hypothetical, we'll finish off Brian Daley's Han Solo trilogy when we discuss The Lost Legacy. Finally, in Silence Fools, we'll get to listener email and cover the latest poll results. We don't have time to discuss this in a committee, so let's get right to it. Thanks for joining us for episode 54 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
It's not a long time ago. It's not in a galaxy far, far away. It's right here, right now. Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. The source for Star Wars news and discussions with your hosts, Dennis Keithley.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Jay Krebs.
Yeah, but it's custom. It's custom faded.
And Darth Taxus. Get ready for fast-flying, saber-swinging, hot space opinions from your hosts, analysis, and other stuff, fun stuff. I'm not your host. I'm just a generic, unpaid announcer.
And we are all better for it. Welcome back, spelunking SP1s. You've returned to the podcast that's lost to history and probably math and science as well. I'm your co-host and booby trap of all things Darkside,
Darth Taxus.
coming to you from the Lost Museum of Lost Treasure room of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me are my co-hosts, who had to explain to me what digging for buried treasure means in polite conversation, Dennis the Phantom Menace Keithley and Jay the Hut Jair Krebs. Dennis and Jay.
Hey, Jay here. Well, yeah, you know what they say. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So there you go.
Yeah, that was a conversation that was a long time coming. So, hello, Scoundrels. Let's talk some Star Wars. But first, just a few notes. There has been an awful lot of solo TV spots coming out. It seems like there's one every other day. And our current plans are just not to get into those because we can't keep up. And by the time we get to them, they'll been gone for 10 days. So there you go. And Jay, you finally got your medal from the virtual half.
I did indeed, yes. And it was as splendid as everyone says that it is. It's super heavy, and I love the X-Wing feature where it flies around part of the metal and everything like that. So it only took me, 3 weeks longer than everybody else probably, but definitely well worth it.
Well, your metal flies?
No, there's a little black X-Wing that flies around the edge of it, which is kind of cool since it's Black Squadron. But But yeah, I think you and I had been talking a little bit. There's Disney's doing a series of virtual 5Ks over the summer themed to The Incredibles, and off the success of this, I've signed up for those. So I'm looking forward to running in those.
I'm trying to get my 16-year-old to sign up for those with me as well. He's been trying to get a little bit more fit, and he's been putting that on his priority list, which I think is an awesome thing. So I'm going to try to see if we can't maybe do at least one of those together. So we'll see.
Yeah, my wife and I, she signed up as well. So we're on at least one or two of those together when we go to do that. So, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on, our last episode, we talked about the Night on Endor episode, or update, I should say, for Battlefront 2. I cannot get enough of this. It's largely only available on the weekends right now. And there is something very satisfying about being an Ewok and running after a stormtrooper who really can't see in the dark, hiding behind a tree, sounding the horn, and then as they start to frantically run around, jumping out and stabbing them in the back. That's been very therapeutic over the past couple weekends.
Sounds like a fun Saturday night. Yep.
Yeah. But unfortunately, like I said, it's only available on the weekends, and I don't know how much longer they're going to do that. But if you've got Battlefront 2, you need to check in on the weekends if they have that map available and give it a shot.
I don't know what a weekend is, to be honest with you, anymore. Or I would have done it.
Well, it is your busy season with taxes and everything. So
just hasn't stopped. Okay.
All right. Well, we got some things to get to, so let's start by heading over to the news. Well, the Star Wars news is a little more focused this week than it's been recently. Jay, you had the first story for us, so let's get started.
And I am so excited to report on this. Star Wars has officially announced its next animated series, and it is Star Wars Resistance. StarWars.com describes the show as set in the years before The Force Awakens, and it features Kazuto Ziano, a young pilot recruited by the Resistance and tasked with top secret missions to spy on the growing threat of the First Order. The show will feature BB-8 and guest appearances by Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma, voiced by Oscar Isaacs and Gwendolyn Christie, respectively. That's so exciting. Dave Filoni of the Clone Wars and Rebels fame described the series as having an anime style, and it was inspired by World War II bombers and fighters. How exciting is this, guys? This is really awesome.
Yeah, this is, I was really caught off guard by this. I was not expecting them to make this announcement in the past week, and then they did it in kind of a casual fashion, which led me to wonder whether Bob Iger was having another quarterly call where it seems like all these Star Wars projects have been announced lately. What did you all think about this anime-inspired style that they've mentioned?
I think that ever since that really kind of a viral anime opener for a TIE fighter versus X-Wing, kind of concept show, that it was just somebody that did a student movie. Do you remember that from a few years ago? Yeah. I mean, I loved that. And I am a fan of anime. I really, it's kind of weird that I hear people out there saying, I'm not really into anime, and they're into geekdom, because anime's got some of the best geek stories out there, you know?
I am quietly holding my hand up in the background here while you say that.
You need to watch My Hero Academia. Just saying. So but I mean, think about it. You know, giant mecha, lasers, blasters, drama, you know, comedy. I mean, anime's got everything there. Now, it might be the styling. It might be, you know, that style where, you know, sometimes the characters have real exaggerated facial expressions and it kind of takes a person out of the moment, so to speak, when that happens. And maybe that's it. I mean, I love that stuff. I think it's really funny. So I don't think that they're going to go that far with it, you know, to where you hear boing. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. You know what I mean? But I think they're just meaning like, just maybe the animation, the stylings, the expressions, you know, maybe the way the 2D art looks, you know. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. Are we really dealing with 2D art? This is anime inspired. Jay, what did you think?
Well, I guess my first question is, what is your definition of anime? Because depending on who you talk to, like you were just saying, Taxus, it can take a lot of different flavors as far as the genre is concerned. So, I mean, if you're talking about, you know, what you said in terms of the exaggerated facial expressions and, you know, kind of that humor and whatnot, I mean, that's definitely one style of anime, but I mean, you can talk about the genre of dubstep in music, and there's so many different subgenres underneath that, you know, and I could go on and on about that. I think it makes sense in a lot of ways to kind of go that route. I'm eager to see what the styling actually will be with Dave Filoni. You know, I can't imagine that the anime will take a very harsh style. But anime is hot. You know, it's trending. It's something that a lot of the young kids are really into. So why not capitalize on that type of artistic styling?
Yeah, and if I could read real quick, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines anime as a style of animation originating in Japan that is characterized by stark, colorful graphics depicting vibrant characters in action-filled plots, often with fantastic or futuristic themes. So,
sure. Well, at one time, the Clone Wars was described as being anime inspired. I would agree with that based on the way it turned out. But so I'm reserving judgment on this. I don't have a problem with them using this style. I'm just saying that I am not a fan of what I think of as the more traditional classic anime. But that's, you know, but we've had plenty of, you know, Voltron is somewhat anime to the extent. So, you know, and I like that. So we'll see how this turns out. But let's talk about the cast a little bit. In addition to Oscar Isaacs and Gwendolyn Christie, we're going to get Christopher Sean, who has been in Days of Our Lives and Hawaii Five-0. Susie McGrath, who is known for EastEnders and I guess was on Law & Order UK, according to IMDb.com. Scott Lawrence, who's been in Legion, Suits, and Into Darkness. Myrna Velasco, who was in Elena of Avalor. Wow, some of these are becoming tongue twisters. Josh Brenner, who was in Silicon Valley and is a Rebels veteran. He played Erskine Samaj, who was as an aide to Mon Mothma. Then there's
forget Erskine.
Right. But and then there's Donald Faison, who was Turk on Scrubs, who might be actually kind of one of the better known members of this cast so far. Bobby Moynihan, who's been on DuckTales, Saturday Night Live, Inside Out. And then there's Jim Rash from Community and Rachel Batera from Tammy's Tiny Tea Time. I said that one carefully.
Very good.
Are you all excited for any one of these particular actors?
I mean, not specifically. It's, you know, we can sit here and speculate in terms of, you know, who we think is going to play whom. But of course, you know, our two favorites are up there. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of the resistance. I used to be a Days of Our Lives P1.
It's on at the gym when I'm there during lunch these days.
Hey, what's going on? I haven't been able to catch up, man.
I have no idea. There's no volume, and it just seems like the same conversation takes all week whenever I glance at that television.
Well, yeah, it's basically Dragon Ball Z, but like for soap opera stuff.
Let's not get crazy. I mean, you know, This is great. As you mentioned, Jay, we don't even know what these roles are. They've named one.
Right.
Kazuto Zayano, I guess is how you pronounce that. Mm-hmm. And we're not even exactly sure who's playing her. Mm-hmm. So, this is great. New voices, new personalities to add to the Star Wars animated world. So that's fantastic. What did you all think about the setting?
Haven't really thought about it. You might want to put a marker there.
I did, but I might not do anything. So, okay, this is interesting. All right. Let me ask you this question, because, and this might be a hot space opinion, but we had Star Wars Rebels. Mm-hmm. Now we've got Star Wars Resistance.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like, yeah, great. I understand you want to tell the story of the Resistance. That's wonderful. But doesn't it seem like kind of a mirror image of a duplicated thing?
True that.
I mean, just the terminology. Really. I mean,
I guess I understand what you're saying, and I think I kind of get your point. I think the key difference here is that with Resistance, there's a Republic. This is a Cold War type of an era right now that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not a full-out occupation by the First Order at this point. Maybe if we were talking post-Last Jedi, that would be the situation here. So I'm eager to see what they're going to do there. The question I have is that we've got a lot of Resistance stories in the Poe Dameron comic.
Yeah.
And how are they going to integrate this with that? Because we kind of got a picture in those comics that we were dealing with the bulk of the Resistance. They didn't have a ton of X-Wing fighters. They didn't, their base was on Dakar. Now, there's plenty of people that were in the background, and these could be any of them. But I'm really curious as to see how they're going to integrate these stories with what else we have in the current canon.
That's true. And Dakar was one of my favorite scents that I used as cologne growing up.
I see. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this question. Isn't the Freemaker Adventures, the Lego series, that's considered canon as well? Yes?
I think it's canon adjacent.
Tim McMahon, I'm very sorry for what they're about to talk about, and I distance myself completely from their conversation.
Well,
go ahead, you two.
I'm just saying I've personally never watched any of the Freemaker Adventures. I know a lot of people that love it, and they're really all about it. And but I'm just wondering, just from hearing what we're saying about the style with the anime and the setting and everything like that, it almost makes me wonder, is this going to be, as you mentioned, Dennis, how are they going to tie this into the Poe Dameron comics and everything that actually is canon? Or is this going to be more like a Freemaker's adventure where it's kind of just a fun little series? It's not something that's necessarily necessary, for the fans in terms of something like a Rebels or a Clone Wars would have been.
I think it's going to be full on canon.
It's a good point. We at this stage we don't have any real way of knowing one way or the other.
Right.
I suspect because it's Dave Filoni that's involved with this, that this is going to be a canon story.
A little more. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's impossible for them to integrate it with what we've already got, but what do we have pre The Force Awakens? We've got Bloodline, we've got the Poe Dameron comics, we've got the Luke Skywalker novel that came out recently. There's not a whole lot there, and it's such a big area of time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens that they could have picked any time. And I'm fine with what they've done here. This 6 years, because we're talking about the 6 years prior to The Force Awakens.
Okay.
Which, what I'm thinking is that we are going to get something like Rebels, which will be 3 or 4 seasons, and then they're out. Because they'll simply run out of time to tell those stories. And I think that's what they kind of like to do now, is they don't want to belabor the point with these series. They've got, with Rebels, he had a starting point and he had somewhere where they wanted them to end up. If I had to guess, I would think Dave Filoni's probably going that direction with these characters.
So do you think we're going to see any of the Ahsoka and Sabine adventures within this?
No, I don't think we will. I think that story is going to be told someday, but I don't think it's going to be told here.
Dang it.
What I would really like to see Star Wars, we're going to have to move on here, but one last to that point, Taxus, what I'd like to see Star Wars do is maybe do some of the digital streaming, direct to home type videos that tell some of these other stories. I've recently read something that someone wrote actually quite a while ago about why they can't actually ever bring back the Clone Wars. It's because that creative team has been split up. They're all over the place. They can't really reassemble them. But maybe you could do something along those lines and give us a 2-hour Blu-ray movie, animated style, on Ahsoka and Sabine going out to look for Ezra.
Yeah. Voltron was split up too, but he came back together to defend the galaxy.
Exactly. All right. Well, what else is going on in the news, Taxus?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Dennis, because Alden Ehrenreich let it slip that he has signed up for more than one Star Wars movie. When asked during an interview with Esquire magazine how many movies he had signed for, he let slip that it was 3 movies. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that the next movie is going to be called Duo, A Star Wars Story, and the third one's going to be Trio, A Star Wars Story.
Well, that certainly is a creative take on it. So, I guess this was, I don't know, I didn't find this surprising at all that he was signed up for more than one movie.
No.
Because that's kind of the way you do franchise characters. You get the actors to sign for multiple movies. Now, you may not end up actually making these movies.
That's the way Star Wars go.
Yeah, I mean, Felicity Jones was signed up for more than one movie.
Right.
You know,
look what happened to her.
Yeah, then they wrote that script and no more Felicity Jones character. So, what do you all think? I mean, we haven't seen Solo yet, and that's coming, towards the end of this month. Are you eager for more movies about a young Han, or would you rather they did other solo Star Wars stories?
Well, I guess it depends upon how this one pans out. As you said, obviously there's tons and tons of Han Solo adventures out there that could be explored. All of his little side jobs and whatnot, and maybe bringing some of those other stories that, we all know and love back into the fold. But I don't know. I don't know if I see that being necessarily feasible with everything else that could be happening as far as storytelling is concerned, but I guess anything's possible.
Yeah, 3 there are, no more, no less. Usually, I agree with you, Dennis. They just work this in just in case maybe there's a cameo opportunity in the future, right? And
that'd be one way of fulfilling the contract, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So let's say in the future there's a Fett movie, right? And they just said, oh, wouldn't it be great if Boba Fett's here and you see Han Solo in the background just completely not engaging? You know what I mean? Like they don't know each other or something?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess my response to that, though, which is distinctly possible. I know one of the reasons, like in the Marvel universe, to switch genres here for a bit, Loki has shown up in some movies, but not, say, Age of Ultron, is because Hiddleston's contract said he's going to appear in X number of movies, and if they put him in there, then they'd have a hard time. Then they'd have to re-sign him for Infinity War. And same thing with Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. He signed up for so many movies, and are you going to burn one of those appearances with a cameo and stuff like that? I don't know. It's certainly possible that he would just show up as a cameo appearance and that could do it. I got to think, though, that this was under the thought that if this movie is successful and there's a demand for a sequel, then they'll have him under contract to do it. I made this point recently on when I was a guest on Coffee with Kenobi, but look at Gal Gadot. She signed up to play Wonder Woman. She was in the Batman versus Superman movie, or on the real cheap, and then she did Wonder Woman for incredibly cheap. Well, now they're going to have to rack up the Brinks truck to get her signed on the line for Wonder Woman 2. And Alden Ehrenreich at this point is still probably pretty affordable. After Solo, especially if it's a hit, probably not nearly as much. So that would be my thought on that. But here's one last question on this, and then I'll tie things up with the news with a brief story. But where do you think they would fit in sequel Solo movies? We've got Rian Johnson working on a trilogy. We've got the Game of Thrones guys getting ready to do their own series of movies. There's the rumored Kenobi movie that still hasn't been officially announced. And we got episode 9 coming up. So I don't know where they would unless they're going to go to like 2 movies a year or something. I don't know. What do y'all think?
Well, like I said, I mean, there's always adventures to tell, but I just don't know economically wise if it's something that is, just practical to do. So I guess, like I said, time will tell. It's hard to say, it's hard to speculate at this point.
What if they left us with a cliffhanger in this one, like a serial? Nobody expected it, right?
Will Han survive? Yeah,
right. Well, or something to that effect. You know what I mean? Like, just maybe there's something that needs to be answered and hasn't been yet. I don't know. That's a good question, Dennis.
Well, we got plenty to ponder there over the next few years.
I'm not done pondering.
Oh, you're not? Okay, go ahead then.
No, I guess I am now. I'm sorry. I sometimes get confused in my pondering.
Well, to wrap up the news, speaking of Solo, Ron Howard announced on Twitter that the movie wrapped post-production on April 22nd.
Wow.
His tweet stated, "That's a wrap on post-production. # Solo @ Han Solo story. # Skywalker Ranch. Wow. What a movie-making adventure it's been. Thanks to a terrific cast and extraordinary folks behind the camera as well. You've worked so hard to fully realize this cool story. Hope fans have a blast. # May 25. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens these days. They push it up to the last possible minute, and I guess it's going to premiere in just a little less than 2 weeks at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
But so good. It's in the can.
Yeah.
We're set to go.
It's in the can, literally.
For can.
Yeah, right.
So,
yes.
All right.
What did Lord Miller have to say, though?
About it being done?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Nobody else does either. All right.
Well, I don't think anybody's terribly interested in that.
Okay. Well, that will conclude our look at the news for this week. For more on these stories and other breaking Star Wars news, check in with our friends at retrozap.com, theforce.net, Coffee with Kenobi, Fantha Tracks, and Jedi News.
Banded together across the television dial are the 4 greatest superhero podcasts on the internet. Green Justice and Arrow Podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash Podcast, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, and Terrigen Dreams and Inhumans Podcast. Join Super Friends Jovial J and Jedi Schwa weekly as they provide commentary and discussion on your favorite heroes. Only on retrozap.com.
This is so wizard.
You feeling me, Hunter's Wizard? I was just stepping to you, girl, with my intellectual wizard politics.
I am an enchanter.
Wizards only, fools. Wizards rule.
There are some who call me Tim.
Greetings, Tim the Enchanter.
Nope, wizards only. Wizards only, fools.
Welcome back to That's So Wizard, a monthly rundown of Star Wars fashion and product news from all corners of the galaxy. I've scoured the hyperspace lanes to find something for all walks of life. So sit back, grab your wallets, and get your add to cart fingers ready to go. With the release of Solo, a Star Wars story right around the corner, it's no surprise that there is an inundation of products to satisfy the smuggler in all of us. All of the usual suspects have revealed their clothing and accessory lines, as well as toys, collectibles, and home goods. So here's just a quick little rundown, the list of products from, you ready? Her Universe, Shop, Disney, Think Geek, Hot Topic, Fifth Sun, Target, Walmart, Hasbro, Funko, Loungefly, and BioWorld, just to name a few. And of course, you can always go to Amazon and get whatever you need. So I've chosen to focus on a few things. Oh, and Entertainment Earth. I forgot about them. They're one of my favorites. But some of the ones that have caught my attention this time around, Pozu, they're at it again. And if you've been listening to the show and paying attention to That's So Wizard, you know how much we love Pozu and their sustainable shoes. And this time it's the Falcon unisex low top sneaker.
Huh.
So, yeah, this one's really cool. White with gray schematic drawing of the Millennium Falcon. And they have a size chart on their website, as always. And it does have removable memory foam soles. And this one is actually, it's really affordable. It's 59 pounds, which is running around $81 US right now. And they have super quick shipping. So again, if you've been listening, you know how always satisfied I am with Pozu, and their products are always great. So yeah, I just ran across this one just last week, and it's available for order right now.
Although it's kind of weird that they would have a theme for unicorn mating rituals.
Unicorn mating rituals.
Right.
You lost me.
Shun the non-believer.
Okay. All right. Moving on then. One Force Designs. This is a new company that I just got turned on to about 2 weeks ago as well. And they have these really super awesome coin design charm bracelets and necklaces that have interchangeable charms. So so you can buy one and then you can pop it out and you can pop in something else. And they're in gold and silver, and they have a bunch of different designs. So they have everything from the Death Star with the Imperial Star Destroyer, and they have, a bunch of Han Solo themed type things with the Millennium Falcon. They have a BB-8. They have a Kylo Ren in both silver and gold, which is really neat. So it's a different, unique take on the charm bracelet or the charm necklace. And I really appreciate that because, I'm always looking for something new and something unique, but also subtle. These aren't really overpowering type products, so it's something that you can wear and not just, you can still make a statement, but not, kind of like in your face sort of statement.
Yeah, charmed, I'm sure.
Yes, charmed, I'm sure. So they run, as far as the necklaces go and the bracelets, the starter kits are around $60 to $70. And then each one of the charms is around $30 a piece. So depending on what you get, there's some right now that are available, some that are pre-order. And they also have some hoop earrings and some choker necklaces and that type of thing. So, and it's oneforcedesigns.com. So you can check that one out. And then we have, I actually recently purchased this one from Amazon. It is the Han Solo card game. So have you guys seen this one?
Yes, I have.
It's been floating around. They're not calling it Sabak.
There's a reason for that.
Yes, exactly. But, and the way that you play it, and I bought this one and I opened it up. I haven't played it yet, though. They have different rules and what you can do to get a winning hand and that type of thing. But
you mean a winning hand?
Yeah, oh, there you go. As Lando would say. Yeah.
We're having fun here, no?
Exactly. But I'm sure there's a way that you could, maybe make up some house rules and maybe get, an idiot's array or something of that nature if you really wanted to. But it's running for $19.99 right now on Amazon, and that is from Hasbro. And of course, if you have Prime, you can get it within a couple days, which is pretty cool. So I can't wait to play that one. We just haven't had time. And, it's
I
life.
actually wasn't aware that it was actually available yet. I'm going to have to go pick that up.
Yep. And it's small. So, the cards themselves are not very big. And the little tokens, you have to pop them out of the cardboard thing. But the object of the game is to try to win the Millennium Falcon. And you compete for these little bounty tokens to try to, get all the stuff. But spoiler. Ooh, okay.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah. All the treasures.
All the treasures.
In the galaxy. Yes.
Yes, I like
of course,
the treasures.
if you don't like card games, but you do like board games, Monopoly, of course, there's a Monopoly for everything now. So Barnes & Noble does have a Han Solo Monopoly set as well.
Wait a minute. There's a Monopoly for everything?
There is. Yeah, don't you know this? Come on.
That's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird business oxymoron. I'm just saying. So go ahead.
Yeah, it kind of is. And now that you say it that way, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, there's science.
Yes, science.
Although I don't think there's a Twilight Monopoly, which I would really like that. Just saying, get on that Monopoly, people. But yeah, so it's it's the classic board game, and you get all of your cards and your tokens and that type of thing. When it was first revealed, some were saying, "Ooh, spoiler alert!" I guess some of the places on the game board might reveal certain things that happen in the movie. I don't know.
Like Park Place 4.
So buy the game and then just wait till you see the movie. That doesn't seem complicated.
No, Dennis. Don't you despoil somebody's anti-spoilerific little bubble they've created, okay? Just saying.
Yeah, I'm very anti-spoilerific, so.
Oh, I am too. I still have the original version of Star Wars Monopoly. I don't know, maybe time to upgrade. This looks pretty cool.
There you go. So I'm sure Barnes & Noble is not the only place that carries this. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon and Target and that type of thing, but that was the first thing that popped up when I was searching. And then this one I'm really, really, really excited about. So this is a home goods product, and this one is from 720. And it's the word 7 and then the number 20 kind of shoved together. But this company actually already has some pieces on ThinkGeek that I've purchased prior to seeing this. And they're very popular for their panache, which is the gold plating that they put on things. So I purchased some, like rubber scrapers and some other kitchen utensils from ThinkGeek that have it on there. And then this happened to come across my line a few weeks ago, and this was revealed at the New York Toy Fair back in February. It is the Lando Tabletop Collection. So, and I'm telling you what, you look at these pictures, and it has Lando literally written all over it because it's in Aurebesh and it says Lando.
Yeah, I was trying to decipher that before I saw Aurebesh and Lando printed right beneath it, but that's pretty cool.
Exactly. So it has a full tableware set with charger plates, dinner plates, silverware, drinking glasses. It even has a wine stopper. It has glass tumblers. It has a full bar set, and it all has it's white or clear glass, depending upon what piece you're looking at. There's even coasters, everything. But it has that gold panache. So, of course, you're getting that little bit of Lando class with your tableware. But what's so really cool about it, I think, is that, again, this is something that if someone came to your house and you had this set out as your place setting, they probably wouldn't even really think a whole lot of it. They would just probably think it was some sort of exotic looking language. It almost looks very Oriental in some ways. It has sort of that flair to it, or even Egyptian. You know, you get that sort of almost ambiguous cultural, feeling from it, I guess you could say.
Right, more gray than anything else, right? Yeah, we're not really sure where it's from, but we know it's not from around here.
Yeah. I ain't from these parts, that's for sure. So we've got another one, our friend Michael Pascal of 800 Pounds Products. He is full out into solo mode right now. So if you go on his website, if you love artwork, and if you've been following us and you know anything about his work, you know how much I love it. Well, he has now these lucky dice pins that you can order with. He's including it as a bonus in some of his artwork, but he's also allowing us to order it separately as a separate order. And so these are neat because it has a pair of gold metal die struck pins that are about 7/8 inch each. And there's a 4-inch gold metal connecting chain. So the way that he pictures it is that he shows it over the snap of a pocket. And so you can see the two die on either side. And they also have a rubber clasp for each so that you can, keep it in place if you want to as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. So the sabak die,
like taunting people who committed patricide.
Yeah, I guess something maybe along
you do
those
that
lines.
with that.
Or not. So he calls them lucky dice pins, of course, because you can't use the other name, but that's all right. So
lucky in the end. Just saying.
And just a couple really quick hit updates before the Wizard Award I wanted to throw out there. So if you listened to the last episode that Taxus did with Sky Stalking, you heard us talking about Ashley Eckstein doing her book tour, and she just posted on Instagram that she is giving out 50 to 100 pins per engagement with a purchase of her book at one of her signing events. And Ashley Taylor, who is the illustrator of her book, and she will sign the pin card at her signings. And I'm really excited excited for this because it's a bonus, but you have to buy the book to get the pin.
Wait, how many pins? 52,100?
50 to 100.
Oh, I misunderstood grammar. I'm sorry.
Per engagement.
I should have listed that in the beginning of things that I butcher.
I may not have enunciated that very well.
No, it's okay.
But so I'm going on the 23rd and here in Ohio. So I'm hoping to get there in time that I can get a pin.
Cool.
So if you're going to any one of the signings, that's a quick update. And I did get to go to Denny's. So I was really excited.
Yay.
And I got some cards and I got my Lando cup and took a bunch of goofy pictures. And my husband and I made him sit there and trade with me at the table. And he thought I was crazy.
Which card did you get?
I got Enfys Nest and Kira. I actually got 4. And then I got one of the Mimbin Troopers and another Kira. So I had to, we traded a little bit. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. So my Wizard Award, are you ready? Da, 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 da. So this is an award that is simply an honorific that I choose to give out to a product, person, or entity that I just feel just deserves some extra love. And I am loving One Force Designs right now. So the one that I mentioned previously about the interchangeable charms, I just think that it's so unique and it's so super awesome. So this is a company, just real quick background. In their bio, they say that they are, quote, obsessed with Star Wars since their childhoods. So they give attention to detail, subtle, trendy designs with a galactic twist. So I just appreciate the fact that people are taking their passion and they're turning it into this lovely artwork that is wearable. Sure. So congratulations to One Force Designs. And again, if you'd like to check them out, and Mother's Day is coming up, just saying. So, if you have a mommy in your life that loves Star Wars, she likes her jewelry.
Intense, huh?
So congratulations to One Force Designs, www.oneforcedesigns.com. And that'll do it for this week's That's So Wizard.
Okay, after taking last week off to talk to Vanessa Marshall, we are back on the road to Solo. And this week we are discussing the final novel in Brian Daley's trilogy, Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, which is actually a more appropriate title than Han Solo's Revenge. With that, Jay, why don't you give us our brief synopsis of this book?
I would love to. All right, here we go. Han, listen to me, Han sounded like Lando. Han and Chewbacca find themselves... Londo. Han and Chewbacca find themselves on the university world of Rudrig after completing a perilous delivery mission for the university. On Rudrig, they run into an old acquaintance named Alexander Badur, who, like Solo and Chewie, is a smuggler. With Badur is Hasti, and they believe they know the location of the log recorder disc that will lead to the fabled treasure of Zim the Despot, carried aboard the long-lost ship Queen of Ranroon. The quartet is accompanied by Bollux, Bluemax, and Skinks, who is an alien resembling a caterpillar. This crew travels to Dalalt and pursues the location of the disc and the treasure hoard itself. Their adventure finds them in the custody of the Survivors, and after an escape, they fight a rival gang of scoundrels allied with Galandro, the gunslinger from the previous novel, before an army of giant robots attack. After defeating the robots and their rivals, Han and his crew locate the Zim's secret treasure. However, it turns out to be now worthless junk, only valuable to academics.
Yeah,
so
joke was on them.
Yeah.
Well, let's go around the table, about 30 seconds each if you want, just give an overall impression about the book. So, Jay, what did you think?
Well, it was a fun book. It was one of those things where is it really Star Wars? Is it Pirates of the Caribbean? Is it a little bit of both? I loved Skinks, and we'll get into him a little bit more, I'm sure. But I really did. I really liked him. But at any rate, it was a fun little ha ha ha, jokes on you, like you said at the end kind of thing, because I kept thinking to myself, okay, well, are they going to find this? Are they not? Because we know Han never really got rich. But,
That's right.
It was a fun little book.
What did you think, Taxus?
Well, to be honest with you, just initially looking at the number of pages and the size of the book and, the way it was being set up, I kind of felt this was like I signed up for 3 of these things and I don't really know what to do. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I got to have a girl. I don't know what she's going to be called. I'm coming up with this at the last minute. How about Hasty? So I just at first was kind of like, all right, feels like you're kind of mailing it in. But then when they started getting to the meat of it on that planet,
DeWalt, very good.
Thank you very much. So yeah, when it got into the meat of it there, I was kind of like, okay, it's kind of picking up. And overall, I felt like, again, this had an Indiana Jones vibe to it.
Very much so.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, no, I think you're exactly right, Taxus. This book, as Jay mentioned, at times I wasn't sure that I was really reading a Star Wars book other than the fact that Han, Chewie, and the Falcon were in it. It starts off, interesting with they're spending their money from their adventure in Han Solo's Revenge.
Like drunken sailors.
Yeah, Chewbacca's got that, is an admiral's hat or a captain's hat or whatever that he's very attached to, and he's wearing a rakish angle, and then he picks up some women and they get in a limo chase. And so, it had a lot of elements in this book that you'd find in different genres of movies. Jay, you referenced Pirates of the Caribbean. I kind of thought a little bit about that as well. And Taxus, you mentioned Indiana Jones. The escape from the survivors reminded me of Indiana Jones there. But so let's focus a little bit on some of these characters here. What did you all think of Badur and Hasty? Jay?
Well, Badur reminded me a lot of, again, sort of the mentor kind of person, maybe to Han. But obviously there was some sort of a life debt there that was the whole reason why Chewbacca felt like they needed to go help him. As far as his character development goes, you don't really get a whole lot on him. So it was really sort of, for me anyways, it was hard for me to place who he really was. Like, I didn't feel like I got a clear cut description of, him as far as a fully formed character.
Okay, well, I thought that was interesting because on the last book, we saw that there was a guy who got out of the life,
Yes.
And in this book, we see a guy who wasn't really in the life. He was an Imperial, right? He was an officer, and, spoiler alert, that's how he and Han knew each other, right? But he, as Han noted, he hit hard times. He was kind of in a state of desperation at this point, even though he would never admit it, because that's just not who he was, right?
Right.
But yeah. So I kind of liked him as a character. I felt like he was. It's like he was more of a natural born father figure. I mean, we focus a lot on maternal figures recently in Star Wars. Well, this guy, he was a mentor to Han, of course, and now he was a mentor to Hasty, right? And she even admitted that all she wants to do is get in a position where she can take care of him in his later years because he took such great care of her and her sister,
Let me ask you, did he feel like necessary in this story other than the backstory stuff? Because I don't really recall him having that much to do in this book after they kind of agreed to get him to DeWalt.
Well, he did have a hand in securing the weapons. I mean, he was... And if it wasn't for the life debt to him, then Chewie...
I'm not... I agree. He got them into this adventure. I don't dispute that. But I kind of felt like once they were on the adventure, I don't know. I just didn't feel like he had as much to do as, say, Hasty did and Skinks and Han and Chewie and, and the droids, of course. But anyway...
I know what you're saying. No, that's right.
Yeah. What did you all think about Hasty? I'm going to go first on this one. The previous 2 books in this trilogy featured a love interest, and Han Solo: Star's End, it was Jessa, and then I'm drawing a blank on her name from Revenge.
I can remember all the names, Dennis.
Yeah, but regardless, they kind of teased that this was going to be a confrontational relationship. I kind of thought maybe a little bit like Princess Leia, that she was going to have to thaw to him a little bit. And she did, and then just quickly dropped the whole thing. So what did y'all think about that?
Well, first of all, the way that they characterized her when they first described her was that she was barely out of adolescence. So she was obviously very young, kind of a chip on her shoulder sort of thing. But the one thing that I did like that stuck out was the fact that she basically lectured Han and said, "You don't have any people in your life. And he started to say, well, I have Chewie. No, you don't have people in your life." And, she called him out big time. Yeah. And yeah, she did end up warming up to him. But I do feel like it was more of the spur of the moment, heat of the moment kind of thing. Oh, we're going to die. Maybe she did have some warm feelings in her heart for him, but I don't think it was any more than just, very, very surface. I mean, she knew that he was never going to settle down. She knew that he was never going to be one that would leave the life. Not that she ever would have wanted him to anyway, but then she also had her story with her sister who had passed, and she was kind of, doing this sort of for her. But yeah, I mean, other than that, she was more interesting than Bedour for sure. Bedour for sure. I kept thinking to myself, who's Bedour again? I mean, isn't that terrible? As I'm reading it, like, this is supposed to be a character you're going to remember, but like you said, he just wasn't. He didn't make that sort of imprint on me, but she did.
I think that he was a necessary element to bring them into the situation. And I think you're right, Dennis. Now that I think about it, there are times where it felt like he was kind of forced
along for the ride.
Yeah, but literally. If it wasn't for him, then they wouldn't be together. I don't know. It's kind of, no,
I don't dispute any of that. I mean, it was that loyalty that Chewbacca felt to him that got them into this adventure. And they didn't even really believe in the Queen of Ranroon, this fabled treasure ship, until, they produced a little bit of evidence. And then once they were on that path, all they could think about was all the money that they were going to win.
Right.
I don't know. Largely, I think Jay was right. I'm not sure that these two characters are going to have a long-lasting imprint or impression on me. Unlike some of the stuff that happened in the prior two novels.
Right.
Now, that being said, there is another, we've already met Bollocks and Blue Max in the prior two novels, but then we also get Skinks, who is this interesting character who, I don't know, am I wrong? That was a gigantic caterpillar.
Yes. Yeah.
And he kept talking about how someday he was going to go through that metamorphosis, and they call it the Chrysalis stage or whatever it was called.
Chrysalis.
Yeah, Chrysalis, where he was going to be a butterfly.
Science.
Yeah. And so, kudos to Brian Daley for coming up with another take on a Star Wars alien. And again, he was operating without a net, so to speak, that he didn't have, other than A New Hope to work with on this.
But here's the thing. I, of course, as I was saying with the last novel, I always have my phone in hand because I need these visuals and I need to be able to see what I'm thinking about. And so I looked up Skinks, and he happens to be, of course, from he's a Rurian animal. But who else is a Rurian animal?
Ma'am, he's a sentient being. I will correct you.
Here's one from Rebels, and his name was Slythe, and he was featured in the books with none other than Ezra Bridger.
Yes, they did bring a couple of these characters into canon with those Ezra Bridger series.
This is actually a canon character. So was this something, Dennis, as you said, that Brian Daley actually developed and created in this novel, and then it was then brought forward, or did these Rurians actually exist before this and he borrowed them for this story?
Oh, no,
I don't know.
I think he did create these, and I think that during the iterations of time between these novels and what we know now as the Disneyverse canon, right? We had these Essential Universe books, right? Do you remember what I'm talking about, Yo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so he was mentioned in those books, along with who was the protector for the gang, the big Hook, right? Am I saying that right? I might be off the hook, but
the J apostrophe UOCH. Yeah. I wasn't sure how to pronounce that at all, so I tried not to.
But the alien that was their muscle, he was basically. He was brought into canon as well through those
Ezra let's
books,
go on to something that has some importance to it. If in fact there is
that I did not know.
That's a good point, Taxus.
Okay. Well, look, I brought him up because I thought he was the most interesting of the new characters that was in this book. And at first I didn't know what to make of him, because it was just the idea of this caterpillar being around and suddenly that was going to be their big professor guy. I don't know. It just was not doing it for me. But as we kind of got to know this character over the course of the story, I really kind of came to like him. And I like this idea that at the end, given what you had just said about Hasty's impressions of Han, this caterpillar is the one that takes him back to his home world and sets everybody up, except for Han and Chewbacca.
Yeah, right.
He takes advantage of all this worthless treasure that they find and puts it to good academic use, and has found a retirement for Bador and work for Hasty and something for Bollocks and Blue Max to do. So that's how they exited Han and Chewbacca's lives.
Because when he gets into his old age, he basically becomes super crazy with hormones.
He's almost like the opposite of real life. It's the Benjamin Button story of the of Skink. So he starts off very, very knowledgeable and very mature, and then he goes through this phase, and then he becomes a teenager where all of his hormones take over, and he knows nothing and is able to not even use reason.
That's right. He's hornier than a two-headed rhino.
Exactly.
Well, all right. Well, let's talk about another group here. We have the Survivors, and this is the first time Han and Chewbacca know they're encountering this group. They've stumbled upon an airfield out in the mountains on Dalalt, because they've lost the Falcon. They have to get the Falcon back. The woman Jacques, or however you pronounce that Tax was mentioning it, she stole their ship, and they're trying to get information out of it so that they can find Zim's cache from the Queen of Ranrern. But they come across this airfield, and when Han and Chewie move in to investigate, they find that the ships are just they're shells. They're not real ships at this point. And I don't know, kind of a lure. And then when everyone shows up, they get knocked out, and the survivors want to sacrifice them. I don't know. What did you all think about this group? And in some regards, they seemed to play the role of the natives that you would expect your jungle explorer to find in some older movies that, then try to sacrifice them to the gods. Or Jay, you mentioned, Pirates of the Caribbean. I could just see them putting, these Han over a spit like the Ewoks did in Return of the Jedi and serving him up for dinner, or like Jack Sparrow did by the natives in the second Pirates movie. So what did you think about this group?
Well, as far as I was wondering with the whole group itself, they talked about them walking past certain rooms and they were hearing them chanting. And then they eventually were talking about the idea that they were imprinted from a very young age. So it was almost like am I to understand that they were brainwashed into, protecting this treasure and at all costs, and it was basically like a mind molding kind of thing. Is that what I'm understing from the way that the inbreeding and everything happened?
Yeah, there was some mention of some transmissions and stuff like that, but it was very much a cult. They were waiting for Zim's return, and so they kept broadcasting out that signal. And then they thought by murdering anyone who showed up at their camp, they were protecting their signal, and then protecting their secrets, protecting Zim's cache of treasure, and then somehow incurring his favor so he'd come back and get them at some point.
Yeah, they were almost like zombies. Yeah. Did they ever mention how they were able to basically poison everyone?
Yeah, there was gas that was being emitted from the
ground. Is that what it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right, because they were wearing masks when they came through.
Yeah,
okay.
Gas masks.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the scientific term for those, I think.
So, Taxus, what did you think about their escape from the survivors?
That's a good question, because I was thinking to myself, man, you guys are pretty much screwed, you know? Mm-hmm. But, you know, the fact that, I mean, let's face it, Pollux and Blue Max, you know, they've basically saved Han's bacon how many times in these stories? And so, to me, again, it kind of builds the whole, you know, I don't know, I didn't really feel disdain from Han to, you know, C-3PO and R2-D2, but, you know, you can't tell he wasn't really fond of droids, or at least you felt like that, you know, with A New Hope. I just, you know, I knew it was going to happen. I knew they were going to escape. I just, I knew that the droids were going to have a hand in it. I did like the way that they eventually did escape on the makeshift sled.
The gong?
Yeah, the gong.
That was fun.
And how, again, using a giant gong to do what? Deflect all the fire? Which we saw in what movie, Dennis?
Sorry, teacher. I'm not sure which one you're referring to here.
We saw it in Temple of Doom.
Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines
when the guy was firing his... Yeah.
Yeah, my comparison to that movie was the, you know, when the plane blew up and Indy and they all jumped out the plane in the raft and they were going down the water and the snow and everything else.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually liked that scene. It was kind of fun. I got a little confused by the survivors here because they seemed primitive in some respects, but then they had a hovercraft. And so it's just like, wait, who are they exactly again? So I don't know. It took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around who these people are. And I kind of felt like that was one of the weaknesses of the book, that the survivors, it was hard to get a grasp on what they looked like, what they were doing, what they were up to. And maybe that was the point, because they were confusing why they were around, but I don't know. And
some were in control and some were no. I'm totally with you, man. Because it's like, okay, earlier when Hasty, she goes into the city and she's trying to retrieve this data disk, right? And she's totally rebuffed by the people there keeping these, you know, I guess basically the equivalent of a galactic lockbox, right? There. Well, come to find out that those people are involved with the survivors, and I guess they're not as inbred or something. I mean, you know, that's one of the descriptions I found about them, is that they were like a series of continuously upon themselves, you know.
Sure.
And that's why their facial distortions and stuff were mentioned. Brian Daley, you know, said. But yet you've got these ones that are kind of in control, and they're out in regular society, and they're high society. They're trying to, I don't know. You're right. It's like they got political motives, yet you've got this whole group of basically primitives, you know, that are allied with them. You're right. It was very confusing to me.
Yeah, Jay, I wanted to ask you about this, you know, kind of the climactic, or one of the two climactic scenes. These survivors have been maintaining Zim's army of war robots, which is interesting. They weren't droids in this book. They were war robots. And then they send those robots after Jacques' mining camp, you know, where the Falcon is being held. Did you enjoy that scene? What did you think about it?
I did, actually. I thought that one of the things that actually came to my mind through that whole thing was that they were just trying to protect their way of life. They didn't know any different. They didn't know any better. And it almost, in some ways, you know, I'm always looking for connections to other things. And in some ways, it reminded me of how in Black Panther, they were trying to protect Wakanda.
Right.
And, you know, they had these resources and they've been protecting it for generations. And they, you know, but obviously it's a very different mindset from one group to another. But yeah, I thought it was a very interesting way to explain how the treasure had been guarded for all of those years. And in the end, you know, obviously we get to literally take the lid off of everything. But I thought it was pretty clever.
What did you think, Taxus, of these droids and that they had and their appearance in the book?
Well, one of the things I think of, or I thought of immediately, was the Clone Wars and the reliance on droids with the Separatists. You know, I just wondered again how much of an influence Brian Daley might have had on that. You know, because up until that point, I mean, we even see in this novel, he makes a reference to the Clone Wars in passing, right? And okay, and that's one of the things Brian Daley does wonderfully. He just flows the conversations to where it doesn't feel like it's out of place anytime somebody says something about that universe's history. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so, anyway, side note. So, you know, I liked the droids. I thought it was kind of cool how Bullocks felt pity for them, because he was like, they just, they just understand one thing, and he tried to give them a chance to think for themselves. Right. And at one point, he even makes a sardonic joke, and the leader of the 1,000 war droids says, "Was that humor?" You know, like. And he seems genuinely kind of interested in the droids of this era versus what he knows from his time, you know? I liked it. I thought it was great, the battle. Brian Daley didn't pull any punches. I mean, people died, things blew up. Many droids were lost that day. But, yeah. So I thought they were pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, your point about the Clone Wars was interesting. If you go to the Wikipedia page, they have some illustrations from different sources of these droids.
Yes,
and I think including the Essential Guide to Droids, where some of these showed up. This reminded me. Some of these looks reminded me a bit of the tactical droids.
Yes,
yeah, in the Clone Wars, and I don't know, Jay, you made that mention earlier that when you're reading these books, you have your phone nearby, and because you have to know things looked up. That's what I did when I saw these war droids, and then once I saw this picture, I had that tactical droid voice in my head every time I read their dialogue. But I don't know. That was, I think, about my favorite part of the book. That seemed like the purest and best Star Wars action that we got in the entire thing. And there were some bizarre things that happened in this book. I mean, was that giant turtles or whatever that they were riding across the pond?
The swimmers. They call them the swimmers.
I kind of more took them as plesiosaurs, you know?
I couldn't decide on that. At one point I was thinking of them as whales. It was kind of hard to wrap my head around them. But
whales ain't got scales.
Yeah, well, whales have been popular in Star Wars recently. So
yeah, it's true. Well, he did talk about putting that dough into the blowhole, and then it like messed him up, you know? Well, that's what he did, and that's how he was able to get that little bit of an advantage.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying.
The food on Dalalt sounds terrible.
Yeah, it really did. It sounded like a really bad place to be in general, you know?
Okay. Yeah, one last topic that I want to cover here, and before we wrap up with our final impressions of this book and the series overall. Galandro makes his return. That was a character that kind of made an impression on the three of us when we covered Han Solo's Revenge. So, what did you think of his appearance here, Jay?
It was, I don't know. It seemed a little gratuitous in some ways to me that, okay, I understand that they had to bring him back and that they had to make a resolution to the whole thing. But I will say that it was kind of cool to see him kind of switch sides at one point, you know, and because he could have just taken the Falcon and left, and he didn't. But although maybe he didn't know what to do with it either. Who knows?
Well, he was also interested in the money that he thought they were going to find.
Exactly. True. But yeah, I don't know. I just, again, he just felt kind of forced to me in this one. He was fun, but I don't know. I wasn't impressed. I hate to say it.
So, have either of you read any of the R.A. Salvatore Dritz stories?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know the character Artemis Entreri?
Yes.
He reminded me of a potential Artemis Entreri. You know?
Oh, okay.
But Solo's not Dritz, of course, you know?
No.
And in fact, to me, Solo is the epitome of one of my favorite slogans, I'd rather be lucky than good. And, because he is lucky in this instance. And, I thought, yes, Jay, he kind of felt a little forced going in there at the end. And then when he was kind of like, hey, you know what? If there's a chance to get money, I'm good with this. Let's do it. I thought, oh, okay, so that's interesting. Maybe this could have gone on to something more, a cool character. And then, of course, at the end, when he and Solo were alone with Skanks. I'm sorry, that was another planet nobody should visit. I'm just saying. He said, nah, we're going to sell this. You embarrassed me in the public, and my reputation's at stake here. So, of course, he bests Solo, but he doesn't kill him, right? And he goes on to try to kill Skinks because he said, basically, nobody's going to have to, nobody can survive from this, right? And it's just business. But, of course, Skinks outthinks him and ends up removing the sensors or the lights that say, hey, don't step across this with a blaster or you'll die. And, of course, he steps across the line with a blaster, and what happens? He dies, right? So, lucky for Solo. A horrific death. I mean, that was very descriptive, too. I just imagine, basically, stepping into this kill zone where there's just a ton of blasters focused on you, from head to toe.
Kind of like Luke Skywalker, but, not in Force form.
Yeah. I'm going to think about that after the show. But anyway, I'm not quite sure. So anyway, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like when he stepped into that thing and it.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I still don't get Scoundrels. Anyway,
It's fine. You totally missed it. I thought you had it, but you didn't. So move on.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. So anyway, so I thought that he could have been more, but again, it was sort of like, well, I maybe had better intentions for this guy, but because, well, this is my last book, I'm just going to cut it short here. You know what I mean?
Yes, I felt like he was underused as well. He had a really cool entrance in the middle of the book where he shows up, he lands in the middle of the city that they all arrived on Delalt's, and he kind of gets out and takes a reading, looks around, is mysterious, and then moves on, makes an impression.
Twirls his mustache. Yeah.
And from there, I don't know. I think there's something to what you're saying there, Taxus. And you too, Jay, I just kind of think this is a loose plot thread that needs to be wrapped up. And so they did by the end of the book.
Right.
And he wasn't in any way crucial to the story for that matter. Kind of like Badur. So let's just transition this. Anyway, let's transition this. Well, okay, let me rephrase that since I'm getting that reaction from you. Badur didn't have much to do after he got them into the intro. Okay. I don't want to rehash that conversation. We already had it once. But Galandro, he really didn't need to be part of the story. He showed up and then Daley got rid of him. And so I don't know. Let's kind of get into our final impressions of this book and then maybe where you rank it amongst the 3 novels of the series. So Jay, you have the honors to go first.
Hey, like I said, it was fun. Would I ever read it again? No. I would probably put it at the bottom of the 3. I actually like Revenge the best out of all of them. I just felt like it had the most complete story, and it was just so neatly wrapped up. But this one had some fun parts to it. Like I said, I liked Skinks, and I liked some of the banter and some of the fun, and it did have somewhat of a surprise ending. I didn't think that I wasn't sure how they were going to resolve the whole treasure thing, and it turned out to be again, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and it was a treasure of another time, but not so much for them. So, it was kind of fun, but definitely wouldn't be among my favorites. And again, it's the bottom of the lot for me.
Texas?
Well, okay, so I'm going to agree with you. I feel like this is at the bottom. And although I have to say the beginning, of the 3 books, I feel like this had some of the best comedic elements, The beginning when he explains that the Admiral's cap that Chewbacca has, you know, and he really likes it. He goes around. I just kept imagining Chewie walking around with an officer's cap.
That was cute.
Yeah, it's funny. And he's just,
I forgot about that.
Kind of smirking, kind of rubbing it in at the same time. And he uses it to dupe a couple of co-eds from the local university, and which is kind of funny too, because he goes out and like rents this really insane looking vehicle for them to have fun with. And he's really proud of himself because he also included a giant picnic with it. And of course, these two college students, two girls, I think their names are Mitzi and Ditzy or something. I don't know. They were really interested because they were studying non-human species or something like that.
Right.
And one of the things I took away from that too, they asked Solo a question. One of them asked Solo a question. They said, how of your experience with Wookiee worlds, you know what I mean? Which to me kind of denoted maybe Wookiees also established colonies like humans did, you know? Just a little side note, maybe it was a slip of the pen, so to speak, but it was kind of interesting. But they ask him, of your experience of Wookiee worlds, what would you say are the significant sociological differences between them and humanity? And Solo just says, their tables are taller. You know? And I thought that was hilarious. And that was part of the natural element of the conversation, like I mentioned earlier, with the whole Clone Wars thing, you know? So yeah, good humor. The action picked up at the end, but again, yeah, I kind of felt like, what am I going to do to finish off this trilogy?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, one of you there. I enjoyed the war robot scene. I enjoyed the escape from the survivors. And yeah, that chase at the beginning of the book with that vehicle that Chewbacca had rented, that was fun too. But after that, I don't know. This just wasn't... I felt like I always knew where it was going to end up. That the treasure wasn't there. The treasure was worthless. The treasure was just ammunition or something like that. And because we know he still needs money at the beginning of A New Hope. So I don't know. There just wasn't too much of a surprise there. I don't think I'm ever going to really think much about Bador or Hasty again after this one. Skinks was fun. We've all said that as well. So I agree. This is, if I'm ranking all three of them, I think Han Solo's Revenge was the best of the lot, and this comes in third place. So.
Although it was kind of funny how it sets up the whole reason why he's in trouble in A New Hope, too, at the end of the book.
Yeah, but
the spice running and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, maybe we can get Jabba to back us.
Well, right. But even then, we didn't need the story to do that.
You're right.
You know, there's nothing that happened in the story that forced him to do that. He could have just that's what he could have been doing. So I don't know. I Taxus, one of the things that you said that I think is absolutely right. You know, he had to finish off this series. And so, got to throw in Galandro. What am I going to do about this? And, you know, I don't know. It just kind of, it seemed like he had a lot of good plot element ideas. He just didn't have a great plot idea for this one. So, all right. Well, Scoundrels, that will do it then for the Brian Daley trilogy of Han Solo novels. And we thank you for coming on the journey with us and participating in the discussion. If you have any thoughts, we'd love to hear them. Email us at sqpod@retrozap.com.
The kids of the 70s and 80s are all grown up, but the good times of childhood don't have to end.
Our generation can share the fun and fandom of our youth with the next generation and bring the past into the future.
And wrap it all up to make a fantastic present.
Join Jedi Schwa and Chef's Bazaar every Monday morning to get your work week started by reminiscing about the past and exploring the future with your earbuds on Techno Retro Dads.
So find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, or on RetroZap.com. Part of the RetroZap Network.
It's time for...
Silence, fools!
Okay, well, this week we have an email to start with, and this is from Steven at Roku Depot. I have to be very careful when I say that. But he asks us, or says, Rian Johnson very slyly put porgs on the Millennium Falcon in The Last Jedi. Do you think we'll see them again in Star Wars Episode 9? And if so, will we see a porg as Chewie's ongoing companion, or might we see Rey take one as a pet? pet? I like this question. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of porgs, but I have some thoughts, but I want to hear what you all have to say first. So, Jay, what do you think?
I'd like to see them again. I'm hoping that it's just not one of those sort of token creatures that we get once and then never see again. So yeah, I would like to see some. We see them in Forces of Destiny, so why not, bring them forward?
Yeah, I'd like to think that Chewie, much like Mike Tyson, eventually gets into raising porgs and uses them to send little messages across the Millennium Falcon to himself.
When they're not driving him crazy with that incessant noise they make.
Maybe.
I think the answer to this question largely depends on how much time there is between The Last Jedi and Episode 9. If it's one of these immediate follow-ups like they did between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, then yeah, I think we'll definitely see some porgs. I don't know. I mean, they could be thrown into Episode 9, but do they really have a purpose? Do they obviously not everything has to have something that drives the plot, but I'm kind of doubtful at this point. And I don't think Rey's interested in them at all, based on some of the comments that, her inner dialogue that we got from the novelization of The Last Jedi.
And we really don't know what their lifespan is. And if Chewie becomes like kind of an insane pet owner, pet Wookiee or something, I wouldn't really be surprised if I saw a stuffed porg on the Millennium Falcon's mantle.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, in memorandum.
Well, on that note, let's turn to this week's Twitter poll. So last week, the question was phrased like this. This is more of a statement. Congratulations. You've been promoted from Jedi Youngling to Padawan. Yay. You are to report to the Jedi Council for assignment to your new master. Who do you hope it is? So we each nominated a Jedi and put that out to their Scoundrels and gave them the opportunity to vote or suggest their own. Jay, you nominated Ayla Secura. Taxus, you nominated the original Cowboy Jedi, Quinlan Voss.
Yes.
Or is it the Surfer Jedi? I'm not sure which.
I think it's a mix.
Cowboy Surfer.
Oh, I like that. And then I nominated Plo Koon, and like I said, we asked for anyone else to chime in there that wanted. So coming in last is the infamous other category. We'll get to some of those comments here in a second. Taxus, you came in third.
Well, did I? Because, he was Ayla's Jedi Master. Just saying.
Right. Still,
so you could probably
by
add them
association.
Together. Look, I'm not going to go that far, Jay. But
well, you only get one of them as a master. You don't get them both. So we're going to still leave you at your 20% of the vote.
22, sir.
Regardless. Jay, your choice of Ayla came in second, and Plo Koon was first with 44% of the vote. So that was fun. Some of the comments we got. Courtney Martin suggested Shakti. That's a good one.
And I almost went with her too. That was my second choice. So.
That would have been a good one. Ryder agreed with your choice, Jay, of Ayla. Neil was very kind. Neil Lowry, that is, and he said anyone on the SQ Pod team. But
I'd be a terrible master.
Oh well, you're also not a Jedi. You're a Sith.
That's true.
And then Mike McDonald, host of the Sandcrawler, chimes in went with Plo and hopes he gives me as adorable a nickname as Little Soka. So
yeah, that's just a Plo job.
All right. Well, let's turn to this week's poll question. And it is, you stumbled upon a treasure map that leads to untold riches, or so you hope. Who from the Star Wars universe, other than Han and Chewie, because we just had their treasure hunt, are you recruiting to help you find it?
Slave one.
Nice. Taxus, since your selection received the least number of votes last week, you get to go first. Who are you picking?
Well, of course, the obvious choice would be Dr. Aphra, but again, you probably end up dead or something. I'm going to pick either he be Darth or otherwise Maul. Because he has he's got a nose for hunting down artifacts, as we saw in Rebels.
Sure. Okay. Like it. Jay, what is your choice?
I approve, Taxus. I loves me some Maul. And he is wicked smart. I will give him that.
Sure is.
So I really thought very long and hard about this one because I thought, okay, who's going to be really smart and cunning, good problem solver, and not completely annoying to be around all the time?
Oh, I'm not available. Oh, wait a minute. You said not completely annoying. That counts me out. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so I narrowed it down to a couple, and also someone that I didn't feel that was going to betray me in the end either. So I ended up with Thrawn, believe it or not.
Yes. It's
okay.
Gifted in the art.
Yeah.
Discovering artifacts.
I do feel that, yeah, because he's super smart. He's a great statistician. He knows his cultures. He has resources. And if he just let loose, he'd be a fun guy.
Well, you had me up until then. I think he would be invaluable in interpreting any ancient glyphs that you might find on your course, and so he'd definitely be helpful.
And I don't think that he would betray you, because I almost went with Phasma, but I thought she would just turn her back and on you, or stab you when you turned yours.
Oh, it's Saturday night. Who's up for a game of Uno? Because he's so fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I spent a lot of time thinking about this as well, and it helps that I wrote the question. But my first thought was Hondo, because the guy's a pirate already. But yeah, I just don't think I'd walk away with any of the treasure if I took him along on that voyage. So, and then as you suggested, Taxus, my next thought was Aphra, but there's a similar problem there. Well,
you'll not walk away with Aphra. Period.
No, you're just going to get shot, or sacrificed or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So then I ultimately said, well, who might be the most useful? And I settled on R2-D2.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
He's loaded with tools. He's very loyal. He's not going to walk out on you with the treasure. He will put himself into harm's way to help you out. So that was my choice. So
good pick. Yeah,
good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that poll will be up within a day or two after this episode goes live, and that will do it for this week's edition of Silence Fools.
Yeah, money. Without money, what would we do?
Another episode and another week closer to Solo, a Star Wars story. Before we go, do either of you have anything for our Scoundrels to be on the lookout for?
Well, unless you want to come to my son's graduation party, I'm on a hiatus right now. Life has just kind of, gotten in the way. So podcasting is on top priority with my Scoundrels. And that's about it for me right now. So I'm hoping to get some things rolling with Coffee with Kenobi. I keep saying my Core Worlds Couture column is going to have some reviews. And I have some things to review. I just haven't had time to review them. So eventually I'll be out there, but I can't see that in the next foreseeable few weeks.
You know who else thought life was getting in the way, Jay? Thanos. Yeah. So let's see. So me on Assembly Geeks over on the Assembly Geeks Network with Geek Supreme, we have a couple weeks off due to some scheduling conflicts. So I'm not going to be there. I am working on my one-man show, which is Interesting Fruit I Have Given to People.
Always the creative one there. All right.
Banana series is very fascinating, let's say.
Sounds like it.
With pears.
Okay. Well, I have some more comic reviews up on Richard's app, which include Darth Vader number 15 and Dr. Afrin number 19. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Get into that Darth Vader series. It's absolutely fantastic. I also wrote a recent review for Avengers Infinity War, speaking of Thanos, Taxus, that you can also find on Richard's app. I'm also on the latest Jedi Journals discussing the Han Solo graphic novel that collected the Han Solo's miniseries, and I have that conversation with Jay Shepard because cool. Solo's coming up. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you can also find my current blog series looking at the depiction of evil in Star Wars, which is on Coffee with Kenobi. Yeah. All right. Well, Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you've enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and we would love a 5-star review or 4-star or whatever you want to do wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially iTunes, which you all know as Apple Podcasts. On the other hand, if you didn't like this, please don't send an ancient army of war robots after us.
No, we're not prepared.
No. With that in mind, we do appreciate it anytime you share our show posts on Twitter and Facebook. Please let others know you are listening by sharing the show with a tweet or a post. A special thanks to everyone that has taken the time to share our show with their social media friends.
And I have to say, both of my co-hosts are so impressive with the amount of exposure that you guys have out there. Dennis, you write some amazing things, and Taxus, you do an amazing job on Assembly of Geeks with the Geek Supreme.
I thought you saw my criminal history.
Not yet, but
Okay.
But seriously, Scoundrels, you got to check these guys out. So, speaking of social media, Starship Sabers and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at @SCubedPod and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Darth Taxus on Twitter, he is at Darth Taxus. Dennis is at DJKVER2, and I am at Joyce Krebs. You can reach us by email at scubedpod@retrozap.com. We would love to hear your thoughts on Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, but if you have anything else that is on your mind, Star Wars related or not, Infinity War, anything, then let us know. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in Silence Fools. Again, our email address is scubedpod@retrozap.com.
And I keep saying it, but we'd love to get some fresh emails in. So, thanks to Steven from Roku Depot. Yeah. That was great to get his email, and we'd love to hear from the rest of you. It's been a while.
That's right. We are honored to be part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. Did you know that RetroZap is home to 21 podcasts, which is more than the amount of credits that Han Solo took away from that last adventure? Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including The Ardcast, which is another retro gaming cast, Classic Marvel Comics, Green Justice, The Sandcrawler, and Trade Federation. Also check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on tpublic.com. Just go to tpublic.com/users/SCubedPod, or just search for us on the site. They make the perfect outfit for all of your little expeditions, like discovering what's in that Tupperware bowl in the back of the fridge.
Indeed. Thanks to Aaron Lay for our show logos, and to James Volpe, the Ska Geek, for our The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly show logo. And thanks to Mario and the Scoundrels players for lending us their voice talents.
Awesome. And here is our disclaimer. Starship Sabers and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. All else is the intellectual property of Starship Sabers and Scoundrels unless otherwise indicated.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts?
So, Taxus, do you know how to spelunk?
Oh, sure. U-N-K. Unk. But I have no idea what an unk is.
All right. Well, that will do it for episode 54 of Starship Sabers and Scoundrels. As always, thanks for listening and joining us this week. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
I am Zim! 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 I am Zim!
You're in my light.